ora and welcome back to B2B Inspired. Today we're thrilled to be joined by someone who brings a powerhouse of global commercial experience and strategic thinking to the table, Nicola O'Rourke. Nicola has carved out a career leading the charge in consumer goods with executive roles spanning brand marketing, digital, innovation, e-commerce and commercial operations. From global blue-chip giants to fast-moving private equity ventures, she's helped shape the most recognisable CPG brands right here in Aotearoa and beyond. Most recently, Nicola was recognised as one of the top 50 women in food and beverage. Nicola sits on a number of NZ food and beverage boards with brands we all know and love, Pix Peanut Butter, Eastern Wines, Whoop, Acton International and more. Nicola is also an NZTE Beachhead Advisor, working with companies to support their expansion plans, and we'll talk a little bit about that later too. Welcome, Nicola. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Beautiful day for it.
Isn't it just?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, there are a few people in the office that were really excited to ask about Pix Peanut Butter. And Of course. And Pix Peanut Butter World. And how often you get to Nelson to see the famous roasting Matilda?
Oh, not enough. Probably once every 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And she is always firing on all cylinders, roasting Matilda. Pix have got a beautiful consumer experience. So when you go there, you can visit the factory and do a tour, which, you know, not many places allow you kind of under the hood these days, but you can go and touch and see and feel roasting Matilda in person. So if you're ever down in Nelson, check it out.
Oh, I absolutely will do. It's high on the list. It's high on the list, as it is from most of our office. So tell me a little bit about your company, Joy Consulting. I mean, I absolutely love the name. And it's obviously a reflection of how much you love what you do. So yeah, tell me a little bit about Joy.
Yeah, so Joy Consulting was really started when I went out on my own. After running Lewis Road Creamery, we sold that at the end of 2020 and moved back to the Bay, which is where we are today. And for me, it was two things. It's sort of a deeply personal, I guess, mantra around creating joy and value moments with anyone I interact with and anything we do. You know, and as a career marketer, you've got to be optimistic and positive and creating moments of joy and delight. So felt like a really natural name, and now I guess it does two things. It allows me to have a vehicle in which to have great marketing conversations with businesses, but also allows me to have a vehicle to engage from a governance perspective as well. So yeah, I wouldn't. In fact, it's tattooed on my wrist. So not the consulting part, just the joy.
So you're really living your values.
Really living it.
Yeah, really living your values. We love to see that. Now, you landed last week from the iMedia B2B Conference Summit in Australia.
Yes.
Like, how was that? What were the key sentiments? What were you seeing as some of the things that was being said in market?
Yeah, it was interesting actually. I hadn't been for a while to a B2B conference. Typically it's been B2C, but it was really encouraging to see in the room a whole lot of experts in their field, certainly around digital and e-commerce, but also in B2B, having quite courageous conversations around artificial intelligence and the role of that in business, and understanding how we apply some of the concepts of consumer into the B2B world, and how actually technology is moving at such a rapid rate of knots. Where is the point where we automate or have human in the loop kind of conversations, and what does that look like? And you know, the industry for B2B is merging and blurring with many other industries as consumers, as customers, as people change. The expectations are blurring in the different channels. So it was, I got to have some great conversations with some thought leaders in the room, which was really exciting as well.
I love that. Courageous conversations need to be had at this point of time, because like you say, the rate of change is phenomenal, is very, very fast at the moment. And I'd love to dig into a little bit of those conversations that you were having today, especially around the blurring of the lines between B2B, B2C. Of course, we talk about omni-channel and how important it is for B2B customers to be reaching their end consumer as well in pull-through marketing. So recently you shared a very thought-provoking post on LinkedIn, and you asked the question whether we've lost trust and empathy in business. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think it's probably a question in general, to be honest. I think, you know, as marketers and often as business owners, we're deeply receptive to what's happening in the economy, what's happening in our markets, what's happening with our customers. And it just becomes a bit of a general observation that as we automate further, as we change our business structures, as we're changing how we interact, how are we losing the ability to, have more human interaction, to actually think, feel and do around our customer moments, around our brands, and what does that mean for our business in terms of what value we're creating? And I think it was really just a moment in time where I think I was reflecting on kind of the global economy, having been having amazing conversations at iMedia Summit and going, actually, I'm not really sure we've actually nailed the balance between, converting sales versus still understanding and having empathy and trust across kind of our different consumer groups and business-to-business relationships. So, yeah, it was really just a reflection moment going, what is going on at the moment? How are we not able to just sit there and have critical conversations with each other and really empathise around different viewpoints that get outcomes we both want? And it was, got a few responses, but I think it actually just kicked off a bit of conversation, which was really the point.
Because one of the things that you highlighted in your talk was that people don't buy from businesses, they buy from experiences. So especially in a place where your customer is everyone, how does that mean? How do you put that into practice? How do we build trust?
Yeah, I think that as a career marketer, there's really two things I have always believed in. One is that design thinking and empathy-based innovation is always going to win. We are still humans, and yes, we want friction to be removed from our lives. We want the experience to be simpler, easier, faster, but there's still going to be a human element needed to really understand what is a person needing, how are we going to think through that before they know they need it, and therefore innovate accordingly. But also I think marketing is the role of all of the functions in the organisation, and the marketing director merely is, I guess, the gatekeeper or the guardian of the brand and the customer and the culture. But whether it's operations or IT or supply chain, how are we thinking about all the moments of empathy and trust at all of those touch points across the organisation, because that's actually what builds really strong businesses and creates value. There's a great quote from one of my favourite marketers that I'm going to read out. This is a woman called Beth Comstock. She's was the head of customer and innovation at GE Electric Global, and she's the author of Imagine It Forward, which, if anyone's looking for a good book to read around kind of keeping a customer-centric organisation with, tens of thousands of employees, and how you kind of infiltrate all of the organisation with that. She said, whether B2B or B2C, I passionately believe that good marketing essentials are the same. We're all emotional beings looking for relevance, context and connection. So, what is she really saying? She's actually saying that every time we have an interaction, how do I leave a value moment with you? And that you leave going, oh, I took more out of that than I thought I would. Or they've actually gone over and above to deliver an outcome and they've done what they said. That doesn't need to be fully automated, but it is a way that we're having an interaction where I'm leaving a value moment with you. And that's the part that intrigues me. Are we losing the ability to do that? Because technology is amazing, and it's reducing our requirement for manual thought, just manual tasks that we have to work through. But how are we continuing to kind of then take the next step and leave more value moments with either our internal team, with our external customers, or our B2B relationships?
What an excellent thought starter for businesses around a table. I can imagine us sat around at a strategy meeting, or we ask to the design thinking point. We always ask, how might we? We love that question here at Blue Ocean. So if we say, how might we insert more empathy, more more human touch points into the work that we're starting to automate? I think that's a wonderful thought starter. We also have something here at Blue Ocean that we call our pillars of trust. We ask the question, is this message, does it have the clarity of value? Are we providing clarity of value? Is our value proposition clear, and are we communicating that out to market? Is the organisation united to deliver in our messaging? How we deliver is really important. So I think that speaks very nicely to your point around asking if we're creating a value moment with this interaction. And do we have a proven track record? How are we not just showing up and doing what we're saying we're doing, but have we done that before?
Yeah, those are great. Essentially actions, they're calls to action to say how are we living trust building in what we do. And it's a shame today that I think we're losing more of that. Do I just simply do what I say I'm going to do? And do I over deliver when I do it? And if so, how does that make the other person feel? What are they going to think about that? And how are they going to then reciprocate and build trust? And how does that relationship work in terms of creating value for our organisation?
Can I put you on the spot and
of course.
ask what's a really good example you've seen recently of like that in trust in action?
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about Pix, opening their world to customers.
Yeah, well, that's actually where I was going to instantly go. As having been in food and beverage my whole career, what I've noticed over time is organisations deliberately, whether they sort of notice or not, are getting more and more distant from their consumers. And so, the doors close, the gates go up, the factory's shut, you can't see in anymore, there aren't tours, you can't engage as you used to with the products and brands. We do it through social media, we do it in other ways, but there's still a distance to that. And an element of trust, it's curated. There's nothing like having an authentic moment, whether it's at a food show, engaging with a founder, talking about their products, whether it's touring a factory where they're going, we've got a spiritual home here, we've got nothing to hide, we're going to open the doors, you can come through, you can see us at work. Hey, we won't be perfect, but that's who we are. And I think it's finding that balance for brands and companies to go, it's okay to not be perfect, but it's about owning your story, making sure that you're connecting with people in a really authentic way. And that looks different for different businesses, but Pix is a great example of that, I think. Because it's very tempting to have the curated Instagram feed as opposed to, having the courage to open the doors and have authentic conversations with customers on the spot and, them see that maybe in the corner of the cafe you didn't quite sweep the floor yesterday, or, the guide dog's running around the Pix cafe doing his thing. It's a lot of fun.
I can imagine there are lots and lots of moments that feel very relatable. And I think it's very translatable to, we work with a lot of manufacturing companies, engineering companies, service-based businesses. Manufacturing businesses usually have very impressive facilities. We've got engineering companies with huge gantry cranes that they're very, very proud of. Immaculate facilities. They build very, very impressive pieces of equipment. Opening the doors is a little bit more difficult because you've got to go through the health and safety, but how can we show that maybe in a visual medium with video, or, there are lots of different ways to give people a little look under the hood. And I wonder with a service-based business as well, if brand becomes even more important because of that. We say a brand is experience now. So if you've got something that's distinctive and memorable, you're essentially showing a little bit of how your people do business.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing for service-based businesses is brand is important because it ultimately is experience, but then that experience is connected to people and often technology. So, you take the case of signing up for a new insurance package, or even just going and looking at how you might sell a car or a house. Anyone entering that funnel is going to have a people experience and a technology experience. And what I see a lot of is that those things just are not aligning in terms of the brand or the experience that the company wants someone to have. So either they've got really good at sort of the lower funnel onboarding you're in, but you actually haven't really experienced the heart of what that business is about, and they've missed moments of value actually to keep you longer. So they haven't quite got that connected, or actually they haven't maybe got the right people doing the right things in the right roles, and have really let the technology end of it lapse. So it's hard, where are the tension points that you get it right and make sure that both the human in the loop and the technology are creating an experience that is going to retain a customer.
Now you're talking about, really understanding your value chain.
Yeah.
Really, I think that's what you're speaking about, looking at points in your value chain where you can add to experience instead of detract.
And I think also the hard part now is we've, post-COVID, as adoption of technology has massively accelerated in our personal lives, we can't help but transfer that expectation across to how we do business. So, you think about as a consumer, no matter what you're buying, no matter how you're interacting with school, with your supermarket, with online deliveries, online purchases, whatever, you have a very swift wraparound experience, and it's primarily digital. And so your expectations around service levels, around communication all change. And how are we translating that into our B2B experiences? Are my customers getting a text, automated the next day when I just had a great meeting with them and a follow-up? How are we looking at kind of our EDM and CRM databases to connect with them exactly like you would a consumer, but it's a different relationship. So because actually we can't help but transfer those expectations into our work life. It's exactly the way it works.
Yes, exactly. So you've spoken a little bit really about how you see B2B relationships becoming more true customer experiences and how to navigate that tension. So as we're recording this, we're deep in Q4, heading fast towards Christmas. I don't know. Somebody gave me an exact countdown the other day.
8 weeks till January.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so you've also been counting down a little bit.
I didn't want to receive that information. That was not anything I wanted to hear.
And we have this sentiment, I think, in New Zealand. I think it's pretty typical that potentially it's time to slow down. We're coming towards the end of the year. We've kind of got this looming April date of, the new financial year. It's still, almost 6 months away. So we shouldn't be slowing down. From your perspective, what should we be prioritising strategically this time of year? How should we be coming together as a team so that we set ourselves up for success in 2026, ready for those financial planning meetings that are coming in March and April?
Yeah, I think it's tough because I think sectors probably differ in terms of what, there's the financial year, but then there's sort of natural seasonal changes in buying behaviours and things, so it's a bit different. But I think the smartest teams at this time of year, we are 6 months into the financial, we're actually using it as a pause point to kind of go, what's working, what's not, what deserves our energy heading into the new year. It's also when you have to sort of get quite practical often around kind of managing cash flow. New Zealand is a bit of a country that slows down for quite a period of time, probably wrongly actually, because it's pretty unproductive at times. But I think the businesses I see doing really exciting things at this time of year are going and not asking the internal questions, they're asking the external questions. So they're going, how are my customers feeling for the next 3 or 4 months over this busy period? How are my business partners feeling? How are our top clients feeling over this period? What could we be doing to make that 3 or 4 months really seamless for them? How can we take friction out of what they're working on right now? How can we accelerate something for them? How can we slow down something for them if they're not going to get to it? So not necessarily sending out the corporate gift parcels, but really sitting down and going, what are the potential problems that our customers are going to have, and then how can we solve them now for them to allow them to sort of sail through that period, which is mad anyway. So they kind of come up for air in January and go, it's tough as it is every year over that period, but actually company XYZ is totally top of mind because, man, they sat with us, they helped us, we were prepared, they offered more value than we would have ever thought. We weren't even thinking about that, but actually they came up with a whole lot of interesting ways to make our lives easier over a really busy period.
I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of what are our internal strategic priorities, but what are our customers thinking, and then aligning that to the internal.
And it comes all the way back to empathy, right? It's going to be tough for us, but we work with 10, 50, 100, 1,000 clients. It's going to be tough for them too. So what can we do to support them over that period and not be a pain?
And not be another
thing
in the
do.
inbox. Yeah.
Even just, there was one classic example the other day of a company who just said, look, we're going to we understand cash flow looks like this over that period. How about we get all your invoices in November, even though we know December and January they're going to come, we'll get it in early. We'll kind of do a 50% upfront payment for them. You don't have to then worry about payments over the rough period, then we'll do the final payment after that. You know, went specifically to them and asked those questions, and then said, actually, then you don't have to ring the AP lady on, you know, Christmas Eve to go, where is money, or you don't have to kind of be dealing with our chat bot over that period of time that isn't going to answer exactly what you want. So, you know, it doesn't have to be big stuff. It can just be little layers of moments of delight and experience that people go, oh, you know, that was awesome. Yeah. Sometimes it's much nicer than a Christmas gift arriving on the doorstep of the company.
Well, what a better use of energy as well.
I think so.
Yeah, that's really thought-provoking. So, you know, do you see anything wrong with somebody just purely going and asking, like, how can I help you over this busy period of time?
Yeah. And, you know, what they don't want is you to put an hour meeting in the diary to go, how can we help? It's to sit there and go, how can I think intentionally about what they're going through based on the relationship I have with that client? And then, you know, what do I know after probably having worked with them a couple of years happens every year? Let's see if we can make it easier.
Yeah. I have to say, I didn't think that was where that question was going to go. I thought you were going to say, let's sit in the boardroom, let's get some financials, let's understand our strategic planning.
I'm not a fan of boardrooms. But
Good, get out of the office, right?
Yeah, well, just, you know, there's no good time of year to sort of pause naturally and go, let's rethink. I think you've got to work out a cadence for your business that works. But it certainly shouldn't be annually. You know, in the current climate, it's so uncertain, things change so rapidly. You know, more quarterly questions around how are we adding value, what is our purpose, are we living it? You know, what are some of the things that are on or off track on our assumptions on our plan? What choices are we making or not making that we might want to relook at and change? You know, the world's moving so fast. We can't really afford to be having these sort of big 1 week strategy sessions for long periods of time. It's just strategies, just choices. It's just choices we make, and then the choices we should always revisit. So we've spoken a little bit about alignment, because we at Blue Ocean, that's kind of where we see a big kind of pinch point. Yes. You know, you spoke about the value chain and just but ensuring that everybody's on the same page, delivering fantastic experiences. But sometimes our definition of a great experience might differ team to team. So we might start to see that bridge start to break, and you know, it does take a little bit of maintenance. So if our ultimate goal is growth and customer connection, how do you see the sales and marketing alignment piece fitting in with that? Yeah, probably a controversial statement, I would say. I've sort of fundamentally never believed those are two separate functions, which, you know, isn't how they show up in business, I get it, but traditionally it's sort of marketing awareness and sales conversion, and, you know, then you sort of got to try and work together to work on the short and long funnel for that. But, you know, great marketers craft stories that sell, and great salespeople know how to present products in a way that, you know, builds trust and empathy over time. So I just think they're such blended functions that if I was running my own business and have done in past with teams, we don't keep them separate like that. But I think the only way, I guess, to get around it is making sure that there's shared culture, shared values. You're very, very clear on your brand and customer experience outcomes, and you're also aligned on how you measure that across the team, and the measures are mutual. So it's not here's the sales measures and here's the marketing measures, but actually here's our customer facing measures, and we all have different elements in lead and lag where we interact with that, but actually they're one set of measures for the company. So, you know, when we're often talking across the organisations I'm involved with, we're always asking ourselves, you know, what is the problem we're solving? What is the solution? Why now? Why us? Those sort of 4 questions, and those are equally sales and marketing questions on their own, but together that's when you get the best outcomes, when you guys are solving those 4 questions together. And it's just always revisiting those, because sales are going to be at the coalface more often. They're bringing in rich insight back to the business. What are we doing with that? How are we thinking about it? Are we still solving the same problems? Are we not? Do we need to be looking at a product offer? They're joint. Probably didn't answer your question very well. But,
no, you did.
But to me, they're not separate functions.
Yeah. Okay. No, absolutely.
And the best marketers are salespeople, and the best salespeople are also marketers.
We would also echo that. Yeah, we would also echo that. We see a lot of, we often come in as part of that marketing function to support, but we have a very sales focused lens. I think that we understand the sales, and we do see them as one function. You almost become the growth team.
Yeah,
you do. Yeah. So what are the kinds of, you just briefly touched on some of the conversations that you're having in the boardroom right now. What is front of mind for the boards that you manage currently, and what are you thinking about going into 2026? Right. Is there a topic?
So many things. Yeah, there's a number of topics.
Yeah,
it's probably the obvious ones, but I think if we just say the topics around customer consumer experience, I guess the intersection of AI, of course, but actually more the intersection of technology and people, and how do we decouple revenue from headcount? Because as you know, you don't want to have a podcast about AI again, probably there's heaps of them, but I'm more interested in if AI is creating significant efficiency in a business, how do we decouple that from the number of heads we have and the overhead cost, so we can truly understand that, and then where do we know that we've pushed it too far and we still need a human element to deliver the experience that we should as a business. So, and look, those are tough questions to answer because you've actually got to test and learn and sort of fail at some things to work it out. But so that, I guess, the consumerisation of B2B and B2B2C. So certainly in food and beverage, whilst we are B2C, you're really B2B because primarily your products sell through supermarkets, especially the perishable ones are not going to go through e-commerce as well. So there is some omni-channel, but it's not sort of a traditional way to start. So the challenge with that is your supermarket is also your customer. Yes. They're essentially the gatekeeper to the consumer. So what is your engagement strategy, your marketing plan, your experience that you wrap around your buyer relationships? And how is that changing as our biggest customer, the supermarkets, change their structures, as they change their teams, as they change how they buy, as they change their strategic thinking? We've got to be really close to that, as well as being really close to the consumer. And what does that mean for our businesses over time? And ecosystem thinking. So just B2B businesses won't go it alone. They'll also grow through partnerships and data and co-innovation. So who's in our ecosystem? So if we take the supermarkets as an example for a B2B, who else is in that ecosystem? There's logistics suppliers that enable that to happen. There's data companies that are enabling a lot to happen. Who else is in the ecosystem, and how are we engaging that ecosystem? Which as a food and beverage company is not a traditional way of thinking. You're not going to go, well, what is my strategy with the data company that works with some of my biggest customers? But actually that's how the world works now. We're all sort of in these connected ecosystems, so how do we have more influence in the ecosystem?
Really important questions to be had, and very top level, and questions of complexity as well that understand, that need, like you say, testing, iteration, innovation behind them. So looking ahead to 2026 and beyond, what shifts do you think that B2B businesses in particular need to get ahead of? We've talked a little bit about AI, buyer behavior, or brand building. What does that mean for companies, and what should we be looking ahead to?
I guess I think a lot of the questions we're asking at a board level are a lot of those things, but I think it's also about having a really good awareness of your macroeconomic operating environment. New Zealand is at the bottom of the world. And yes, we export a significant amount of our goods and services and technology, but it's a pretty, if you follow the Alderman Trust Index really closely, which I do, it comes out in January every year, but it's kind of a global reading of I guess, the general volatility of the world, and it does break it all down by markets, etc. But it's interesting that each year it's getting more and more challenging around metrics like trust, like empathy, like connection. And so if we are growing brands that are around experiences, how much of those experiences actually involve trust and empathy and connection, or actually are they just transactions? And so how are we thinking about what our product is, if it is in a global environment, and how that, I guess, is interacting with just how consumers, how people are feeling. You know, it is we're becoming quite a divisive world in lots of different ways, and I think we've got to have a very clear view on what that means across many things: climate change, sustainability, technology, consumer, brand, you know, all the elements of our business. And those are big, heavy things to take into 2026.
They are.
But actually, really, it's just continuing to ask the question around exactly what we've been talking about. So what is our role? What can we do really well? And how can we more intimately know our customer base so that we are delivering the kind of the experience, the empathy, the trust that we need to keep them as sticky as possible? Because, you know, there's a really evolving school of thought that actually the investment in retention is significantly more valuable than the investment in acquisition at the moment. And so, you know, if you look at your investment split across your P&L, where are you spending your money?
That's really interesting. I'd like to talk a little second about your role in New Zealand Trade and Enterprise as a Beachhead Advisor. Now, New Zealand's Beachhead Advisory Network connects New Zealand businesses with a global community of more than 450 international experts based in both New Zealand and in over 45 international markets. All the advisors have deep experience in building and scaling businesses internationally, and you offer practical expertise across areas like strategy, branding, governance, and finance, and of course, marketing. Can you speak a little bit about your role as a New Zealand Beachhead Advisor, and how does that work?
Yeah, firstly, I should say it's an absolute privilege because not many countries in the world get access to what is an amazing function like New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. So, you know, essentially they're a government entity set up that enables and supports New Zealand businesses around the globe, and have got offices all over the globe. And what they have is this Beachhead network, which is essentially access to a number of individuals across multiple countries and subject matter expertise. And companies can come in when they're on an export journey, and it be at different phases of the funnel with NZTE, but at times can get access to those expertise. My role, I probably have seen maybe 75 companies over the last 4 years, and it ranges from solving go-to-market strategy with them versus fresh thinking sessions, which are around kind of aspiration, structuring of teams to achieve aspiration, brand, marketing, product positioning, all that stuff. But what I love about those sessions is you get to just meet some incredible people who constantly surprise me, because, you know, the aspirations are really high, and we're doing some pretty epic stuff around the world actually when you kind of get so much of a cross-section of business. So, you know, I only get to see them for about 3 hours at a time, so I don't, you know, I get to sort of dip in and out, but it gives you a really amazing, industry cross-section of what's happening, and what's working and what's not working, and different strategies and innovative ways of thinking that many of our New Zealand businesses are doing, which is a real privilege.
And you're obviously bringing a whole heap of expertise and experience to that, so it's a privilege to have access to you as well. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So you've mentioned some resources today. You mentioned the book, which I'll put in the show notes as well. Are there any more resources that you would highly advise people to read, check out?
God, there's so many.
I know. What's your
It sort of depends what you're... At the moment I'm actually always rereading Beth Comstock's book, but Jeremy Gersh, who's a trend hunter thought leader, he has written a great book around the culture of innovation. And the sort of front half of the book is a bit of theory, and the back half is actually for companies to take and have practical working sessions around innovation. I love that book because it really challenges your thinking process, which is not necessarily around innovation. It can just be around experiences and other things. So those are the two I'm deep involved in at the moment. And then my go-to is usually LinkedIn, so I'm always following a couple of really interesting people, which I can give you to put in the show notes as well. But,
yes, please do.
I can sort of send you through my list of books I'm interested in reading and people I'm following, because I find it, I don't know where LinkedIn came out of nowhere really, but it's been an amazing resource, I think, for B2B to really create, allow your employees within your organisation a voice to actually grow kind of your brand and presence. And yes. I think most companies underestimate it as a channel to build trust, actually.
Yep.
And it's an amazing way to kind of network, I think, if you think about it intentionally.
Yes, you're very active on LinkedIn, and highly recommend everybody to go and check out your lovely posts and reflections, because they are, I did do a little bit of a deep dive last night, so I ended up scrolling for a while. And finally, to close, you may have actually just answered this question, but what's one thing that you think B2B businesses often overlook when it comes to their goals and when it comes to growth?
Oh, they overlook. I don't know if they deliberately overlook it, but I think it's just getting too caught up in, not asking enough, where are the points in our value chain that we're, A, we're providing a point of difference, but B, we're providing value. So typically the conversations I'm having around a B2B table are right, okay, what is our price, what is our product, what is the cost, how do we automate it, sort of as fast as possible and in that order. As opposed to going, cool, that is an enabler to what are we actually trying to achieve. And I think it's just creating enough space and time to keep having those conversations, which is probably relevant to everyone, not just B2B. But
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
That conversation was fascinating. It went in a few places that I didn't expect it to. So
that's good.
Yes, it's very good. It's wonderful to hear you talk about the customer experience, and it sounds like you really live and breathe putting the customer first as well, which was just, it's amazing to hear. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.